Food poisoning is extremely common. Symptoms of food that makes people sick will often can include vomiting, diarrhea, and fever. This is frequently caused by the food's toxicity or other chemical characters. The CDC estimates that 48 million Americans get some of these foodborne diseases every year. 128,000 of them are sick enough to go to the hospital and 3,000 almost die. Surprised? Most of the time, the bacteria, virus, or parasite responsible to never be identified, and usually the particular food isn't either. The meals that make people ill are frequently non-toxic, yet they can nevertheless result in the issues. Be cautious to take the steps to prevent consuming the food that will make you sick. Today, we'll show you the food that makes people sick often. But before we begin, do not forget to hit the like and share buttons and to subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Number 1. Lose taste and flavor. A food with a loss of taste and flavor alone is unlikely to make you sick, as long as it is safe to eat and has not been contaminated or spoiled. However, if food has lost its taste and flavor, it might be a sign that it has improperly stored or has passed its expiration date, in which may it cause that the food that makes people sick will often be so. It is important to pay attention to other signs of spoilage and contamination, such as the unusual odor, the discoloration, or texture. When assessing the safety of foods, and if you suspect that the food you are eating is spoiled or contaminated, it is best to discard it and not consume it. If you're experiencing the persistent loss of taste and flavor, it is recommended to seek the medical advice, as it can be a symptom of some underlying the condition. The statement, "lose taste and flavor, this kind of food can make the people sick," is not accurate. Food taste does not indicate whether or not this will make people sick, and the food can become contaminated or spoiled for a variety of reasons, such as the improper storage, handling, or preparation, and it may not have been noticeable change in taste at all. It is important to be aware of the signs of food spoilage and foodborne illness. Some signs of spoilage include the discoloration of an odor, a slimy texture, and however, it is important to know that all spoiled food have these signs, and it is always best to err on the side of the caution and discard any food that may be questionable. Number 2. Smelly foods. Smelly foods can make you sick if they are spoiled or contaminated with bacteria or other harmful microorganisms. It is important to properly store and handle the food to prevent the food poisoning, and if the food has a strong unusual odor or appears to be spoiled, it should not be consumed. It is always better to be safe than sorry when it comes to food safety. Foods that make people sick will often not have a slightly woody smell. Food that is contaminated or spoiled can have a variety of odors such as sour, rancid, putrid smell, and it is important to be aware of the signs of the spoilage. However, not all spoiled food will have an odor, and it is always best to err on the side of the caution and disregard any food that may be questionable or that has been stored for a long period of time. It is important to practice a good hygiene, such as washing hands and utensils before handling the food and properly storing, preparing, and cooking food to reduce the risk of foodborne illness. Number 3. Looks bumpy with odd color. This phrase likely refers to the food that appears spoiled or contaminated and may cause the food poisoning if consumed. It is important to properly inspect and store the food to prevent from contamination and discard any food that appears spoiled or has an unusual odor or color. It's also important to cook the food to appropriate the temperature to kill any bacteria that may be present. If you suspect that you have someone or someone has become ill, after consuming the contaminated food, it is important to seek the medical attention. Yes, food that looks bumpy with an odd color can be food that makes people sick often. The appearance of the food can be an indicator of the spoilage or the contamination, and the bumps, the discoloration, or the unusual color may be a sign of the presence of the harmful bacteria, the mold, or other contaminants. Consuming spoiled or contaminated food can lead to food poisoning, which can cause symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever. In severe cases, food poisoning can lead to more serious health complications and even death. So it is important to inspect and store the food properly and to discard any food that appears spoiled or has unusual odor or color. Number 4. Contaminated food. Yes, contaminated food can make people sick. Contamination can occur at any point during the food production process, and from growing and harvesting to processing, packaging, and storage. Common types of food contamination include the bacterial, viral, and chemical contamination. Bacteria such as the Salmonella, the E. coli, and the Listeria can cause the food poisoning, while the viruses like the Novirus and Hepatitis A lead to symptoms and can be transmitted through contaminated food. Consuming contaminated food can lead to symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever. In severe cases, it can lead to long-term health complications or even death. Well, hope you have liked this video on food that makes people sick often. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are about this video. Until then, have a great day.